He lost 30 pounds in 3 months, eating nothing but an apple and a can of tuna a day, until he weighed less than most 14-year-olds. Doctors warned him he was risking permanent damage. He didn't stop. Then, months later, he did something almost harder. He put on so much muscle so fast that he became physically unrecognizable, all so he could put on a cape and cowl and become Batman. This is a man who has starved himself, bulked himself, shaved his head, aged his face, and buried his own voice and posture underneath someone else's, again and again for almost 40 years. Most actors play a character. Christian Bale erases himself and lets someone else move in. This is the story of how he became Hollywood's most fearless shapeshifter. Christian Charles Philip Bale was born on January 30th, 1974 in Haverfordwest, Pembrokeshire, Wales. His father, David Bale, was a commercial pilot and entrepreneur, and his mother, Jenny James, worked as a circus performer. Because of his father's shifting jobs, young Christian grew up moving constantly. England, Portugal, the United States, before he'd even hit his teens. An unstable childhood, but maybe the perfect training ground for a life spent becoming other people. His acting career started almost by accident. As a child, he appeared in a television commercial for fabric softener, then landed a role in a West End musical at age 9. But everything changed in 1987 when Steven Spielberg cast him as the lead in Empire of the Sun. At just 13, Bale carried a sprawling historical drama, playing a British boy torn from his parents during the Japanese invasion of Shanghai. Critics were floored. Some called him the best young actor of his generation. But child stardom is a brutal path, and Bale later admitted the sudden attention nearly swallowed him. Through the 1990s, he worked steadily without a major breakout. Newsies, a Disney musical that bombed on release but became a cult classic. Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing. He earned a reputation as a serious, dependable performer. Fame hadn't caught up yet. That was about to change, violently. In 2000, Bale took on Patrick Bateman in American Psycho, a wealthy, narcissistic Wall Street executive who may or may not be a serial killer. He transformed his body into a shrine of obsessive vanity and delivered a performance so chilling and precise that it's still quoted and dissected decades later. It announced something important. This was an actor with no interest in playing it safe. Then came The Machinist in 2004, and the transformation that still shocks people today. To play an insomniac factory worker consumed by guilt, Bale starved himself down to roughly 120 pounds. It was extreme enough that people around him feared for his life, and then, almost immediately after, he reversed course entirely, packing on serious muscle to become Bruce Wayne in Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, released in 2005. It was a turning point not just for Bale, but for an entire genre. Nolan's Batman was darker, heavier, more psychologically real than anything audiences had seen from a comic book movie, and Bale gave it a wounded human center. The Dark Knight followed in 2008, becoming a cultural landmark, and The Dark Knight Rises closed the trilogy in 2012. Bale's Batman is still considered one of the definitive versions of the character. Even while carrying a blockbuster franchise, he kept chasing harder, stranger roles. In 2010, he won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for The Fighter, playing Dickie Eklund, a former boxer and crack cocaine addict. He dropped weight again, studied Eklund's real mannerisms obsessively, and delivered a performance so manic and raw it felt uncomfortably real. It was the moment Hollywood's respect for him turned into its highest honor. The transformations kept coming, sometimes overshadowing the performances themselves. In American Hustle, 2013, he gained weight and grew a comb over to play a con man loosely based on a real FBI sting, earning another Oscar nomination. In The Big Short, 2015, he played real-life investor Michael Burry with an eerie, quiet precision, another nomination. And then in 2018's Vice, he gained roughly 40 to 45 pounds, shaved his head, and spent hours in makeup every day to become former Vice President Dick Cheney, mastering his voice and posture down to the smallest detail. It won him a Golden Globe and yet another Oscar nomination, cementing him as the most physically committed actor working today. But Bale isn't only extremity, he's also shown real warmth and range in quieter work, as racing driver Ken Miles in Ford vs. Ferrari, opposite Matt Damon, a performance full of charisma and heart, and in Hostiles, confronting the violence woven into America's frontier history. Off-screen, he's kept himself almost entirely out of the spotlight. Married to C.B. Blodgett since 2000, with 2 children, he's spoken openly about his discomfort with fame, treating celebrity as an unwanted side effect rather than a goal. Some call him a method actor. He's pushed back on that label, describing his process as more instinctual, built fresh for every role rather than following one fixed system. him. What ties it all together isn't a signature look or a signature voice. It's the total absence of one. From a shipwrecked child in wartime Shanghai, to a billionaire vigilante, to a skeletal insomniac, to an overweight vice president, Christian Bale has spent almost 4 decades proving the same point over and over. The less of himself you can see, the more real the person on screen becomes.